Welcome to Graceful Healing, a podcast to get straight talk about healing and living again. My name is Maureen Lake. I'm a holistic health coach, speaker, author, and thyroid disease fighter. Each week, I'll be bringing you graceful conversations to inspire you to seek new ways to hit the reset button to catapult your health and vitality to new levels. Listen in and open your heart to all the new possibilities. Are you ready? Let's do this. Hello, everybody. Today I want to welcome Lisette. She is amazing. Lisette is a psychotherapist, a hypnotherapist, an energy medicine practitioner, and intuitive. And that's quite a mouthful. But seriously, she's the founder of Healing from Within, where she helps clients transform the dramas and traumas of their lives into magic that draws people to them, elevates everyone around them, and has others secretly wanting to be them. So what does all this really mean? Well, according to Lisette, when you go through the traumas and dramas of life, it's easy to feel like they dictate what your life will look like. But you do have a choice. You can either run from them or turn towards them to see what they have to offer you. I seriously love this discussion with Lisette because she's able to take mindset strategies to a whole other level. And it's pretty impressive to understand where she started from as a young teenager to where she is today. I know you're going to enjoy this discussion as much as I had having the discussion with her. Welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to have Lisette here today as my guest. Lisette has an incredible story to share with us, so let's just get started. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm excited to be talking to you about this.
Oh, thank you. I'm excited to have you here too, because I know your personal story and journey is going to be so interesting to the listeners. So can you just share with us how you landed into the practice where you're at today? And I know I've shared a little bit in the introduction about your amazing credentials, but I want to make sure that you just share with the listeners everything that you want them to know as well about your personal journey.
Well, thank you. So I guess I'll break this up into two parts. So career-wise, I would say that right now I'm on my third career or spin-off, if you will. I started college right after high school with my business degree because, I think at that point in time, we all kind of just want to make money, right? So
Right.
I thought this is going to be great. Like, this is what's going to bring the money in. And, part of that was because I didn't have much growing up. I have 4 siblings, so things were pretty hard, and my parents worked 2 to 3 jobs at a time.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know, it was a lot. So that's what I saw. And I also saw a lot of hard work, like you have to work hard in order to make money, that kind of thing. And so that is what created me going into college, immediately getting that business degree. But what I knew was that I didn't want to keep living that life. So my first thought was, how do I make money and how do I get myself out of this situation? How can I give myself and my future kids a better life? So bingo, why not a business degree? But that obviously wasn't what worked out the best for me. It did land me my first real job working at a college. So I started in higher education, and it's obviously helped me with what I do today, but it just didn't feed my soul.
So were you teaching in college then?
I was not teaching. I was working at the registrar's office, and I was there for about 9 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was helping a lot of people register for classes. And then later on, I went on into going into clinical field in clinical mental health counseling. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I was just like, this isn't for me. And that's when I decided to leave. I loved helping people, and people always came to me. And at that time, I was still very young. I was probably in my early 20s, 19, 20 years old at that point in time. And I didn't know whether I could charge for, giving people advice. And then I remember going into a counselor's office and I'm like, what is this all about? Like, what do you do? And I had a mentor at the college who became a good friend of mine. And that kind of spun me off into going into the clinical world in that field. After I got my degree, I left that job. I took a $10,000 pay cut to work for an agency seeing clients in a therapeutic setting. And that slowly began to feel very stagnant for me after a few years. I thought, well, maybe if I become a supervisor, that's what's going to make me feel great. But when I got to that point, it still wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. So even though I was great at what I was doing, I loved parts of it, but there were parts that it just wasn't my thing. And I also felt extremely limited into what I could do. And because it's a business, obviously, you have to bill for sessions. So there were certain things that I was doing and I was practicing at that point in time, like energy work and the hypnosis and all of that stuff. And I couldn't bill for that. And so that's when I decided to leave the agency I was working in and start my own private practice.
Oh, good
and
for
I left
you.
with 7 people.
Wow.
Yeah. Everyone thought I was crazy because I only had 7 people.
Only? That's a pretty good way to start off.
It is a pretty good way to start off, but I had started part-time. So I was still working at the agency, and after work, I was seeing clients at my private practice. But when you're talking about 7 private practice clients, you're not always necessarily seeing them on a weekly basis. Sure. So you're not bringing in a lot of income, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm trying to say. And everybody at the agency was like, "You're nuts. What are you doing?" And I'm like, it's better than being where I am now. And I left. And immediately, within 30 days, my caseload was built up to like 30 clients.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I knew I had done the right thing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And that's when you know, because when you leave something that you just feel stagnant in, that you know isn't for you, something that doesn't feed your soul or lights you up every single day, even if it's scary, you take that leap. And immediately, things just start to work out for you. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what happened.
That's amazing. So what was your draw into hypnosis and some of the other practices that you use?
Yeah, so I'll take you back a little bit, and this is kind of what's created everything for me. So I just gave you a snippet on my career just because that kind of took so many twists and turns. Honestly, what brought me to the hypnosis and the energy work and everything that I do today was the beginning started when I was 16 years old. I left my house at 16. I ran away. I was the odd man out in pretty much all places. I was bullied. I was going through severe depression. I even cried myself to sleep almost every night, and I didn't want to live anymore. So I was in a really, really scary place at that point in time. Things got to the point where I just said to myself, no one is going to rescue you. You've either got to run away or you have to figure something out, because this torture, you're just going to die. You're going through this torturous moment right now. And I took the only step that I felt that I could take at that time, and that was to run. And from that moment on, I was in survival mode. Mm-hmm. I left the world that I was living, but the baggage I was still carrying was with me everywhere I went. And so then began my journey of addiction. I ran away from everything that made me uncomfortable. I turned to alcohol, over exercising, restricting, and so many other things, right? Like fill in the blanks. Eventually, I began to develop health issues because I was just running and not working on anything that was coming up. I wasn't confronting my own demons. And eventually, I got to the place again where I said, something's got to be done with these health issues. We're just taking over. I was falling into a deeper state of depression. And I remember out of nowhere, I found my first teacher and healer. And several teachers and healers have come across my path along the way. But what changed it for me was I said yes each time. So each time I got to the place where I said to myself, you're either going to stay living this miserable life that you're living now, or you're going to take the chance on yourself and say yes. At that point, I had nothing to lose. And that's what started me on my journey towards self-healing and self-love. So even though I didn't know what that even meant at that point in time, at least not really.
Yeah, you're so young.
That's when I was really young at that point in time. And but there was nothing else for me, right? I mean, and when I say that, I mean, again, there was nothing else to lose at that point in time. I was in a really, really bad place. And I just met people along the way. I would pray. And, I don't necessarily consider myself a religious person. I consider myself very spiritual. But I would pray that someone or something would come along and help me. And in that place of surrendering, that's when I actually saw these signs. I saw these people coming through. And these things just fell on my doorstep. The hypnosis, the energy work, all of these things just fell on my doorstep. And I fell in love with them. And I saw that there were so many differences being made in my own life. And I was like, oh my God, I need to bring this into my practice. And because I was working for myself at that point in time, I was able to do that.
Right. So were you learning a lot of this stuff while you were in college, majoring in business?
Well, the business degree was first. That's what got me into the college, working there full time. And then I went back to college to get my degree in clinical mental health counseling. So while I was learning the energy work and the hypnosis, that was shortly after. It was actually right on the brink of me finishing graduate school.
Okay.
And then it continued thereafter. Yeah. So it's been nonstop for me.
Right. I'm really curious. Did some of the practice occur as part of the curriculum, or is it all outside things that you learned in addition to your program?
No. Actually, all of the stuff that I do now with my clients and what I practice on a daily basis is nothing from what I've learned in my degree.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I don't use the psychotherapy background and my business background in my sessions. Of course I do. I sprinkle that in. That's part of my life and what I do. But everything else has been just me wanting to work on myself. That's really where this is all stemming from. It's wanting to work on myself, seeing how amazing these things have worked for me, and then seeing the same thing in other people and wanting to help them go through this beautiful transformation so that they don't have to go through the same thing that I went through. That's what drives me to do what I do.
That's beautiful.
Thank
you.
It
is. Gosh. And it's really crazy to think about what we personally have to go through to get to a place. And then you get to a place and it's just so beautiful that you're able to share your journey with other people so that they can heal as well.
Yeah. And we all have a story to tell. I mean, just like you said, we all have that dark moment, right? It doesn't matter whether you haven't gone through, this deep, dark thing. Like, it doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, if I didn't go through, something as scary as sexual abuse, then that means I don't have a story to tell. Every single one of us has a story to tell. And there's so many people that walk through my door and people that I work through, with online, that I see the same thing over and over again. I see that scared girl, the one who wants to know peace, what that feels like, the one who longs to be seen, the one who wants to be heard and loved. The one that wants more for herself, the one that was told that it couldn't ever happen, the one that cried herself to sleep every night, and the one that knows that there's something bigger for her, but she just doesn't know how to get there. This is exactly what I see over and over and over again. And every single person, when we start to uncover the deeper issue, it's because they've had some kind of story that's got them to that place.
It's so true. Gosh. Is there a certain age group that you tend to work with, or are you seeing mainly women and women of all ages, or how does that look?
I see women of all ages. Primarily right now, the women that are coming in through my door, I would say, are in their 30s to about 50s. That's primarily the clients that I see now. Every once in a while, and it shifts. Sometimes I'll have clients who are in their 20s, and that tends to be more of the clientele. But right now, it's probably 30s to 50s is the women that I'm working with right now.
And if one of my listeners wanted to reach out to you, do you work like remotely through Zoom or any of the other kind of online platforms, or is it strictly face-to-face?
Nope, I do both. So I see clients in person in my practice. If I have some clients that want to do strictly traditional talk therapy, then we will do that. But that's very few and far in between now. Most of my work is a combination of clients that I see in person and then also clients that I see remotely. So I see people from all over, and typically the way that we connect is through Zoom or phone call. And I also offer other programs online, so workshops, monthly healing calls, and people can sign up for those remotely from anywhere.
That's awesome. So I'm intrigued by the hypnotherapy. I'll admit to you, I've never been hypnotized, and I've never been in like a situation like that at all. But can you explain a little bit about that, and for other people out there that are probably similar to me and get a little fearful twinge just thinking about it?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I always tell people when they're thinking or considering hypnosis at all, it's just we're literally working with your subconscious mind to heal any core issues that you're not easily able to release from your conscious mind. Like, that is all. It's just going to help you gain control over undesired behaviors. When I work with clients in hypnotherapy, and that's also part of the work that I do when I blend, so we could talk about that later, but I blend a lot of this work in most of my sessions anyway. But when I use hypnotherapy with clients, it's typically because of a situation that they have that they're going through where they can't necessarily connect with what's happening consciously, right? So we might go into, so I might use past life work in hypnosis, where we go into a past event in this current lifetime, but also even in a past life. And we bring all of those things up to the surface, right? So that they can clear it, so that they can let it go, so that they can make connections as to why certain things are happening within this particular lifetime and where it's actually coming from. But with hypnosis, you don't lose control. You always have control of your behavior. So it's not like, yes, you're more open to suggestions during hypnosis, but it's not something where, like, you know, if it goes against your moral values, there's nothing that I can say to you where you're going to go ahead and do that. So I can't tell you to hurt someone, or I can't tell you to give me, you know, your ATM numbers so that I can get, you know, whatever you have in the bank. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
You're not going to go against your moral values or your beliefs. And you're fully awake during the session. So at any point in time, you can get out of it if you feel like you're feeling unsafe or anything like that. You can always get out of that state. And honestly, you're in hypnosis a lot of the times and you don't even recognize it.
Interesting. I mean, I've had my Akashic Records done, and so I know that the person that did that, like, used her guides to find some information about my past lives. Is that how it works for you too, or is that totally something completely different?
It depends on the client. The Akashic Records, I don't do that. I've had it done to me before, but I'm not 100% familiar with how that works from my standpoint, not the client's standpoint. It's very different, and it also depends on who I have in front of me. So I am very spiritual in the way that I work. But if I have someone who is not into that, like that's not their thing, then we're going to go into strictly, you know, the hypnosis piece. So if it's for stress reduction or whatever it is, that's what we're going to work on. Now, if I have someone, which is most of my clients today, who is open to spiritual concepts or is spiritual themselves, then yes, I am going to bring guides and angels and ancestors, but I usually bring in the clients, not my own.
Gotcha.
So that's the differing. With the way that I do it. But hypnotherapy is very different depending upon who you're working with. When I work with my clients, they get a blend of everything that I do. So we're kind of mixing in a little bit of everything. That's my method, and the way that I've seen works amazingly. And that's how I do it.
Wow. I must be so impactful for the people that you work with, especially when there might be some hidden trauma or something that they don't even remember, but they know there's a little nagging piece in their mind somewhere that keeps on resurfacing. And to be able to finally resolve that's got to be so huge.
And that's why I use hypnosis and the past life work and the energy work. Most of the time, and this is also why I left traditional talk therapy and working for an agency. Now, they taught me so many things, and I will never say like, oh, you know, it was a terrible moment of time in my life. No way. I learned so much there. But it limited me in the way that I can help people. So there have been people that I have worked with where literally in just one session, they've healed whatever it was that they needed to work on, and I've never seen them again.
Oh, wow.
And that's what I love about that. And the difference between, again, traditional talk therapy is that for so many, I had clients where I was working with them for 3 or 4 years at a time, and they were literally in the same spot from when we first started.
I know.
Right now, obviously, there are different things that are going on in the background for that, right? Like it depends on, you know, whether they're using their tools and techniques, whether they actually really want to change, whether they're taking action towards making that change. There's so many variables. However, that gets you so far from my perspective.
I know. I mean, I know people that have been in therapy for almost all of their adult life. And truthfully, it's just becomes part of like their routine and who they are. And they're so attached to it that they'd probably go through some type of heavy withdrawal if they ever were to exit.
And that is very true. And I think that is part of what happens sometimes as well, is you develop a relationship with someone, your therapist or your healer or your coach, whoever that is. And then it becomes a routine, just like you said. One of the things that I tell my clients that come in through my door is, this isn't forever. Like, that's the first thing I tell them. Like, this is not forever. I'm not obviously going to kick you out. It'll be at the right time, because we all have our own ways to work through things and how we process through things. And for some people, it takes a couple of sessions, or for other people, it's a little bit longer. But it really isn't forever. This is for you to learn tools. This is for you to take action towards whatever it is that you're trying to heal or work through or bring into your life. So then you can do that on your own. And if something happens in the future where you need somebody's assistance again, they're there for you, but they're not your crutch. They're there to help you, guide you along the way so that you can then do it yourself. This is about empowering people. This isn't about keeping them forever on your caseload.
Right. That's so refreshing. That really is amazing. So other than your counseling that you do, are there any other services that you offer? Do you do any retreats or workshops or public speaking?
So I have a workshop that's coming up now. It's in person, and we start on February 21st. So it's a Kundalini and chakra alignment experience.
Ooh,
it's a 50-day program that I'm taking clients through. So each week we are going over in depth your chakra. So every single chakra that you have, which is an energy system that you have in your body. So if one chakra is out of alignment or unbalanced, or another chakra is overweighing another one, then your life is going to look a certain way. So when you have that energy flow in your body, and each chakra is able to, do what it's supposed to do in your body and its system, right? Energy anatomy we're talking about, then your life is going to look completely different. So each class, we have a Kundalini class that we will practice that's just based on working and balancing that particular chakra. And so that's what this 50-day program is all about. So we're going to meet 8 times in person. I think maybe like 2 spots left right now. So that is in person. Obviously, these are for people who are locally here. But once I'm done with doing this one in person, I will be offering it remotely for anybody who actually wants to do it from the comfort of their own home.
Oh, cool.
And it will be just full of women. Because that's, for me, I work with men as well, but women, that's where I'm just like, that's my love, is working with women and helping them heal things and work through things. And I think a lot of the times women, we, for so many years, obviously, we've had, things happen to us. We've been ostracized, we've been repressed in so many ways. And I think we are beyond powerful. And that's what I'm here to help women see, is that there's so much power that lies within the woman, and we just need to open that up.
Oh, I just love that. Oh, so where's your local location, since you only have 2 spots left, in case there's a listener listening?
Yeah, so I am in Gales Ferry, Connecticut.
Oh,
so
okay.
That is where I am. So anybody that's near around that area, as of right now, there are 2 spots left. So they can register for it.
Oh, I wish you were in Denver. I would register in a heartbeat.
It's a long trip.
Yeah, it sounds so amazing, though. Well, I would love it if you could keep me posted when you do open up your online session, and then I can send it out to my newsletter list as well, because that just sounds incredible. It
is going to be incredible, and I definitely will. I am super excited for it. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but I am just like, this is going to be beyond probably what anybody has ever experienced, because we're going to do the Kundalini yoga. We're going to do, you're probably going to learn more than you ever really need to know or ever want to know about chakras and how to heal it yourself. But we're also going to be doing manifesting exercises. We're also going to be doing past life work, healing wounds, healing generational patterns, that we've taken on from our mothers and our grandparents and things like that, so that we can cut those cords. So we're going to be working with a lot of, getting rid of those oaths and vows and things that we've taken in past lives, whether you believe it or not. This is all healing work.
I do believe so much of it is almost like in our DNA, that we're not even aware of. And Oh gosh, I am definitely going to sign up for your sessions because I'm not kidding. It just sounds amazing. Amazing.
There's a seat waiting for you. I will definitely let you know. But you're absolutely right. Just going back to what you had just said, we do take on that energy. And I see clients who do that as well. And I think for a lot of people who consider themselves empaths, right? And I consider myself an empath as well, but we tend to take on, other people's things and their problems and negative energies and, however it is that you want to call it. But these do literally get passed down from generation to generation. So I've seen so many people, and this is part of what I do with clients personally and what will also happen within the deep healing and the group program as well. But it'll be, the person gets to the place, or the woman gets to the place where she's finally able to say, again, and this happens in meditation, it's not something that has to be, your mom has to be there or your deceased grandmother has to be there, but you are literally saying, this is not mine to carry anymore. I am giving this back to you. I am giving this trauma back to you.
Well, that's beautiful.
So that I can live in peace. And so that my daughters can live in peace, so that my sons can live in peace. And it's literally just giving that back to them and healing. When you heal, you're literally healing 7 generations above and below you. And now I tell people that not so that they take on something else, right? Because I think we tend to do that. Like, oh my God, I need to heal myself so that I can heal my mom and I can heal my daughter. No, that's not why you're doing it. But that's a benefit.
Wow. 7 generations. Oh my gosh. That's incredible. Oh, this has been so interesting to talk to you. I'm so glad that you're a guest.
I'm so excited to be talking to you.
This is wonderful. Is there anything else you wanted to share, or I'll just leave that open-ended question right there before I ask you another question?
So I guess maybe a couple of lessons perhaps that I've learned along the way.
Perfect.
A couple of things. I guess the first thing that I would say is, if you have to do it alone, do it anyway. This is something that I experienced personally myself, and something that I see a lot of people, they stop themselves from growing, and they stop themselves from doing something that they know that they need to do because their best friend isn't going with them, or because they don't know anybody there. And I did the same thing. I was often afraid of doing things on my own early on when I first started on my spiritual journey, or just my healing journey in general. Whenever I'd see a class or a retreat or anything that I wanted to take, I would call a friend to come with me. And no one wanted to come. So immediately, I was just like, whatever. So I'm not going to do it. Eventually I got to the place where I was just like, you know what? I don't care. Like, I'm just going to go and do it anyway. And what I realized was that it didn't matter whether I went to workshops or retreats on my own, because I met people. So most importantly, I got closer to myself, and that's what I really needed to do. So bottom line is that no one's going to save you. You have to want to save yourself more than continuing to live perhaps the shitty life that you're living now. Do it anyway. Your soul's going to thank you, and the people in the situations that you long to meet and experience are going to be there for you. But you have to do it. You have to take that first step.
That's beautiful. It really is. So just one final question, and then I'll let you go. But if you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, maybe your 16-year-old self, what piece of advice would you give you, knowing what you know now?
That's a good question. The first thing that I would say to her is, your sensitivity and your big, beautiful heart is magic. Let it burst open. People need to see more of that, and not that tough persona you show instead. Your dreams come from this place, not from forcing and attempting and manipulating or trying to be perfect in every scenario. That's not what people want to see. They want to see your loving heart. I would also say to her, let yourself have more fun and laughter, because you have plenty of time to adult later. And that thing, that thought that you keep having that you think is crazy, it's totally going to happen for you. And until then, just breathe and know that there's absolutely nothing to worry about.
That's beautiful.
That's what I would say to her. Thank you.
That is so
And that's
beautiful.
for anyone that needs to hear that.
And so many people need to hear that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the time that you've spent with us today. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned so much, and I'm not kidding. I really want to get that information so I can send it out to my newsletter list. I know there's going to be people just chomping at the bit to take that 50-day class. So
I will send it to you.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was wonderful.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today. This episode is brought to you by my book, The Graceful Advocate, Taking Control of Your Life After a Diagnosis of Thyroid Disease. You can find it currently on Amazon. I love it because my friends call it a purse book. They keep it with them when they go to the pharmacy, grocery store, or even to the doctor's office. It's a great little guide to keep you on track and informed. I can't wait for next week when I get to see you back on the pod. Thank you for listening. I really do appreciate you so much. If you ever need someone to chat with about your healing journey, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me through my website at maureenlake.com.